All right. So, Joe, welcome to the At Odds podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
All right.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you, Joe. So first things first, is it just that simple that the Browns absolutely have to take Myles Garrett number one, or are they just laying a lot of smoke screens right now with some of this talk about, hey, we might trade down, we might take Mitch Trubisky? Are they just trying to confuse people a little bit?
No, it's definitely Myles Garrett. If you ever watched the that movie Draft Day, Myles Garrett, no matter what. There's no way the Browns take anyone besides Myles Garrett with that top pick. The Browns have, they have kind of showed some smoke there with, what they were saying. Hey, Mitch Trubisky is a good player, and it kind of putting it out there a little bit that hey, he's a local guy, so we might take him. No, it's definitely all about Myles Garrett. He is, without a doubt, the player who the Browns will select number one overall, period, end of story. You heard today Mike Silver did go on and say that the Browns have known for a couple weeks that Myles Garrett is their guy, and I can confirm that. From what I've heard, Myles Garrett is the man, from all the reports I've heard, from what I've discerned. So there's no way the Browns are going to trade down out of that number one pick.
All right, good. That's what I want to hear. Now, the other big question, did Mitch Trubisky's teammates show up to his birthday party? Oh, it's a draft day reference too, because I forget.
I didn't even get that one, Brian. What the hell?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's like the funniest thing. Because they find out that the guy's teammates didn't show up to his birthday party, and it starts raising all the doubt on whether they're going to actually take the quarterback. that was a good joke question, damn it.
You got to make sure they know.
That was pretty good. At first, I thought you were making a statement. I'm like, geez, when was Mitch Trubisky's birthday? How did I not hear about it? I would have been.
I do have a question for you. Do you think there's a chance that the Browns would trade up from 12 to get Mitch?
Absolutely. Although I'm not necessarily sure it's Mitch Trubisky. I think the Browns have an interest in another couple quarterbacks. I think Deshaun Kaiser is one guy they've looked at, but Trubisky, he's the local hometown guy, but it's going to take a little while to develop Trubisky. I don't think they're quite in love with him. I think it's more possible that the Browns trade up from 12, maybe up to 10, 9, 8 or so to get a guy like Malik Hooker, to get a guy who serves a defensive need rather than a quarterback. So I'm not really sold on the fact that the Browns will take Trubisky there, and trade up to get him. I think they're more likely to trade up for a defensive guy, actually. But, it's the Browns. You really never know. But I think the Browns do want to try and trade up from 12.
I agree. I think that me and Brian were talking earlier, Hooker would be an awesome guy to trade up for. And if he's there,
oh, definitely.
I guarantee they'll start picking up the phone and making some calls for that. So, but go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. Is it possible that the Browns drafted their quarterback last year and they just didn't have an offensive line to protect him? Like, could Cody Kessler be the guy?
Wow. I thought kind of long and hard about that. And you know what? I've been on some other shows. I have not heard that question yet. I think Cody Kessler could be the guy. I'm not really sure if the Browns will give him a legit shot, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. But in my opinion, Cody Kessler is a guy who's solidly reliable, decent arm. Again, he did get banged up a little bit last year, but Kessler is a pretty solid quarterback. He's certainly not an all-star by a stretch, but he's a pretty solid guy. He's a nice pocket passer. Isn't too iffy back there. Not too much with the happy feet. He's a pretty solid guy. But at the same time, he's not the all-star, so he might not get that fair shot.
Yeah, because the main reason I bring it up is, his biggest issue was maybe holding onto the ball a little too long, but now he can even afford to hold onto the ball a little long with them adding Zeitler and Cottrell, locking in Batonio. If those guys stay healthy, they have 4 excellent offensive linemen, and then there's a huge competition for the right tackle spot. Like, the Browns' offensive line, to me, is going to be, at least top 10, if not top 5. if everybody stays healthy. So maybe Kessler could have a really good season because when he had time to throw, he was really good last year.
He definitely was. You know, he was a solid player, but like you said, he was the offensive line last year. But they have they really have upgraded, especially with Treader there at center. That center position makes a huge difference. You look at how the Browns did with a good center, in the last couple of years. When they had Mack, when they had a zone blocking scheme, that team was dominant up front. But once Mack got injured, and once you had trouble at the center spot there with Irving not being able to fill in well, that's when you started to have some trouble. So with Treader there, I feel a lot more comfortable with this offensive line. That's going to be a big key for the Browns.
And as far as Kessler goes, the QB position is like the position that interests me the most. That's what I'm most familiar with, and I like Kessler. I actually think Kessler is going to be a solid quarterback in this NFL if he can get the time to develop and not be thrust in a situation like he was last year for too long. Yeah. If this line can stay healthy and solid, I think Kessler can build big time and maybe have a really big year 3. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Cody Kessler, he can be that guy. I mean, like you said, he's a solid quarterback. He is well versed in the system after being there for a year. And like you said, he showed that pocket presence. He has that ability and a solidly strong arm. I mean, it's not like he's weak back there in the pocket or he's afraid. I mean, you saw him even with that weak offensive line, he wasn't afraid to stand in there, and that's the thing. That that's really the differentiating thing for me is, you can be a great quarterback behind a great offensive line, but the true test of a quarterback, in my opinion, is how you can do behind an iffy offensive line. Are you afraid to hold on to the ball? Because if I'm Cody Kessler last year, I'm running for my life.
Yeah.
Again, in the AFC North, I mean, I do not have the cojones to sit back there, but you saw Cody Kessler do it, and even against the Steelers and teams like that, he stood back there and took those hits. So, he does have, he has that, that tangible to stand back there, and he has that courage.
I like his release. He's got a nice quick release. He may hold the ball. He holds onto the ball long last year a little bit, but when he actually went to throw, he had a quick release to him. And if they worked on that on the offseason, getting the ball out faster, that quick release is going to be big time for him. He doesn't have a Kyle Bowler-esque, throwing 80 yards on his knee arm, but he's not Chad Pennington either. He's a nice middle of the pack arm strength guy, pocket presence, quick release. I think he can be something, and the Browns probably know that, and I don't think that they're going to rush a quarterback.
Exactly, and like you said, and I apologize there for my phone acting up, but
okay.
But yeah, I mean, the other thing that's going to be kind of interesting to see how it plays out is the addition of Brock Osweiler and how he plays into that. Because if Sashi Brown's a genius, he will try and wait until the later rounds or even after the draft to see if any teams are left unfulfilled at quarterback, and maybe try and trade Osweiler away to a desperate team. Say maybe like the Jets. Say the Jets aren't able to find a quarterback, or maybe the Niners, in some strange twist of fate, maybe decide to trade down, or maybe they get Jonathan Allen instead of Trubisky and aren't able to trade back up. And John Lynch panics and says, "Oh, we need Brock Osweiler." If Sashi Brown's a genius, he'll be able to switch and trade Osweiler for a pick. But if he's not able to, which is a significant possibility, then the Browns might have an interesting situation there between Osweiler and Kessler, and even if they've drafted a new quarterback. But I think the key for the Browns, though, is not, it's like you guys said, knowing you have Kessler, who's a solid, bridge quarterback, and not panicking and taking, a third-tier quarterback, and having to trade up for him, too. I think that's really the key for the Browns in this draft. No matter what you do, you need to build the defense and not give up too much for that quarterback.
I agree.
Yeah, that's something I definitely feel the Browns need to address, because they had a great free agency, but pretty much everything they went after in free agency was offense. So I think this should be a hugely defensively focused draft. And man, I wouldn't be mad if they spent all 3 of their first picks on defensive players. A lot of people are bringing up with the Browns' first pick in the second round, Budda Baker. Do you think that that's a guy that could drop that far? And what do you think the way he would match up with the Browns system?
Baker would be perfect for the Browns. Baker's a guy who played in a pretty nice defensive system in college. He could fit in very well with what the Browns are trying to do on defense. Aggressive safety, very solid player, decent in coverage. He's a guy who could fit in very well with the Browns. My fear, though, however, is that the Steelers are going to get him, and Baker will be a player like Palomalu, who haunts the Browns forever. So, yeah. I would love to see him in Browns uniform. He is exactly what the Browns need there because the safety position was really weak for the Browns last year. You didn't have that deep ball hawking safety that you really need in the AFC North. Against quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger or whatnot, who can burn you deep after opening up, underneath time and time again. So Baker would look great in a Browns uniform. He would be the perfect pick at 33, but you do kind of risk, another team grabbing him, if he doesn't fall that far. But besides Baker, another name to watch for me is Tre'Davious White out of LSU. Mm-hmm. If he does fall to 33, he would be an amazing cornerback for the Browns to have. I mean, White did so well at LSU. Started as a freshman, less than 5 games in, had a lot of experience there with the Tigers. He is a guy who could really light up the Browns because, if we're being honest, Joe Hayden's almost done with his career. He was a great player in a Browns uniform, but it's almost time for his career to be done. So the Browns really need a cornerback, and I think White would be a great solution for him.
Oh, I agree. Speaking of LSU, what if Hooker's already taken it like a 5? Could you see the Browns, if they had the opportunity, trading up and taking Jamal Adams, that safety out of LSU? He's one of my favorite players in the draft. And I think if he drops to like 8-9 range, I think it'd be irresponsible for the Browns not to at least entertain the idea of getting him.
Exactly. Although he could fall to 12 as well if the Browns are lucky. But if he's around, if he's around there, I think you definitely you might take a chance on him and see if you can get a good deal. If you can surrender maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick to trade up, if you don't have to give up a second, because if the Browns have to give up a second to get back into the top 12, or I should say into the top 8 to get Adams, then you maybe get a little hesitant. But if you can give up a 3rd or a 4th, then I definitely entertain the idea because, as you said, Adams is a really good player out of LSU. They have a great reputation of developing defensive backs.
I think that he could end up being one of the best players in this entire draft, if not the best player in the entire draft. I'm really high on Jamal Adams, so time will tell, but he's one of my favorite players in the draft.
Mm-hmm. And I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll let you go. I appreciate you being so generous with your time, Joe.
Of course.
Over-under on Browns trades, 2.5 for the NFL draft.
I'll go over.
Ooh,
I'll go over.
Like it.
Yeah, I'm going to say 3. I think the Browns trade back up into the top, if not the top 8. I think you see a trade. I think the Browns trade down from that 33 pick in the second, on the second day. I think they try and find a team who's really desperate for a particular player. They're on day 2 and they trade down, at the beginning of the day. Now, and I think you see a day 3 trade, where you have a few, you have a 6th round pick traded, where the Browns get an additional 6th or a 7th, maybe next year. I think 3 in this draft for the Browns.
I like it. And the rumors are flying. Is it possible that Josh Gordon plays for the Browns this year? Is this finally the year?
I would love to see that, but I can't. Honestly, I think Gordon has burned too many bridges. He's had too many chances, and let's be honest, even if he were to be able to come back, let's just say Roger Goodell says, okay, Josh, we're going to give you one last chance. You stay off the wacky tobacco and everything is fine. And Gordon is able to come back sometime in 2017. I'm not sure if he's going to be back to full form right away because, again, this is a guy who hasn't played in a while. He hasn't been on an NFL field in some time. And you don't want to say he'd be too rusty because you really can't lose speed that quickly. But at the same time, I think the Browns are just kind of sick of him. I think, it would be very, very, very improbable, at least in my eyes, that he suits up in the Browns uniform this year. Because Hugh Jackson, I just don't think he's gonna let Sashi Brown, have him stay in a Browns uniform. I just, with all the chances that Josh Gordon is allowed to sink down the tubes, I just don't think it's possible at this point.
Yeah, I completely understand.
You just don't want. It's kind of like you put all that time and effort into this person. You don't want to just release them and then they go tear shit up in like Jacksonville, somewhere else.
I think maybe you give him a chance, but at the same time, it's just, he's messed up so many before that, at some point you just gotta say, okay, you're talented, but hey, it's time to go. So I think I might be losing you, but if you can still hear me, thank you guys again. I really do appreciate it. That was an awesome show, and you guys are great. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you.